the sandwich adapter and here's the O-ring. You want to put oil on both sides of the O-ring, just a little bit. Now the flat part of the O-ring goes back into the sandwich adapter with the round part that's going to face up to the bottom of the engine. First thing is, the sandwich adapter is going to go here with the nozzles facing out in this direction. And what we used here is a 1 1/16 deep socket to tighten this up. It should be tightened up to no more than a couple foot-pounds of torque. You don't want to tighten it up too tight. Just firm enough so it's snug. You don't want to compress that O-ring too tight. We'll install the new oil filter. And typically, it doesn't have to be much tighter than hand tight. We're going to press the hose all the way up the flush mount, but make sure that the nut is facing this way so you can get the nut driver in easily to tighten it up. There should be a 1/16 of an inch of the hose showing. Also, you do not want to over tighten them because it'll deform the hose. So you just want to do it so it's finger snug tight. Slight deformation of the hose, but not a large deformation of the hose. The same process goes with the second. Slight deformation on the hose itself, but not much. Otherwise it'll destroy the hose. Now if you come back down here, we took one section of hose and we left it this way, so after we mount the adapter, we can then just run these up to the appropriate space and cut and then connect. With the specific sandwich adapter we're using for this installation, the one closest to the rear of the vehicle is the inlet to the filter, and the one farthest to the front of the vehicle is the outlet. And you want all the nozzles facing this way, and the rear nozzle will be perpendicular 90 degrees. Before we tighten all this down, what we'll do is we're going to run the hoses so we can move this around, and the last thing we'll do is tighten this nut. We're going to now do first of all a rough cut on the hose. Rough cut on the hose. Now we're going to run this back up and around into, from the back hose, which is the inlet, to the outlet here. What we want to make sure is when we mount this, that the hose isn't kinked, that there's sufficient room. You want to make sure that when you make your final cut, you're making a nice flush, flat cut, as flat as possible, so you get as much surface area on here as possible. As you're putting this on, it'll be finger tight with greasy fingers, and you want a slight deformation, but not too deformed. So 1/4 inch, 1/16 of an inch, something like that. Hand tight, slight deformation of the hose, not too much, and that should be sufficient. You want to make sure that it's off of the two hoses, that this is not hanging down, that the test port and fitting are not hanging down here, that's up and out of the way. So we have room here, and now we can tighten the clamp, and we will start the test. Now, if you can see, there's a hole, part of the engine block. We're going to take a zip tie, run it up and around, and right around this fitting. This is not going to create any structural integrity to the unit, but what it's going to do is just keep it from moving around. And then now we should have a relatively secure installation. Cut the end off. We have the test port, which is easily available. Just going to put that up here. Now, do a visual inspection. Let's make sure everything appears to be tight. You have to make sure that if you come from this side, actually this side first here, that the canister seal here is flush to the housing on both sides. Otherwise, if it's not, then the clamp is not correctly put on the cap in the canister, and as a result oil will spew out. But that looks all secure. You can feel around the side. This all looks good. This all looks good. This is all hand tightened. That should be fine. Okay, now the next thing is just to turn it on and inspect that there is no oil leaks.
Okay, so Nathan, tell us why you decided to use Petrosaver product on your green cabs.
Well, Tom, for a couple of reasons actually. One is the financial savings that it's going to be bringing towards Michigan Green Cabs as a company, and second, from an economical standpoint, this fuel-saving product is going to do a real good job of saving an enormous amount of oil, over the course of just a few years. So it's a fantastic product.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate you guys trying our product out. Pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.